Welcome back. As we said, both Republicans and Democrats are trying to channel voter anger from the Kavanaugh fight into voter turnout as we head into the midterm home stretch. And one of the key places in the battleground for the House is right here in California, where early voting actually begins today. Hillary Clinton carried 7 districts in 2016 that are currently held by Republicans. The Cook Political Report rates all but 2 of them as toss-ups right now, making them prime targets for Democrats. And Democrats also have their sights set on Republican Congressman Duncan Hunter's district. It is the reddest district in Southern California, but has become more competitive since Hunter was indicted for using more than $250,000 in campaign funds for personal expenses. Winning seats in California will be a key test on election night for Democrats. If they can win here, if they can't win here, can they win anywhere? Joining me now is 2 Democrats trying to turn red seats blue. Amar Kempa-Najjar is challenging Congressman Duncan Hunter, and Harley Rouda is challenging Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Amar, since you're sitting next to me, I do want to start with you. There is talk about the I word, impeachment, when it comes to not just the president any longer, but now Brett Kavanaugh. Is that something that you would support if you were elected into Congress?
That's a good question. So for me, I think Democrats, we need to stop complaining. We got to start campaigning. We got to win some elections. We are where we are because we lost elections in 2016. You know, what happened a couple of days ago is going to define many generations yet to come, these people's kids. What we're going to do next 29 days will also define many generations to come. So we got to win some races.
Not quite an answer. Would you support impeaching him?
No.
No.
We got to win fair and square, just win some elections.
What do you think, Harley?
If you're talking about Kavanaugh, I think we do need to find out whether he lied under oath or not. He certainly showed a demeanor that's not consistent with somebody we would expect to be serving on the Supreme Court.
Would you want to find out more information? Nancy Pelosi filed a FOIA request yesterday to preserve the records between the White House and the FBI, but also, I think, to get more information on the interview process, what happened behind the scenes when it came to the investigation into Kavanaugh. Would you support that?
Yes, I think the American people want to know. They want to know whether the latest justice on the Supreme Court lied under oath. And as I stated earlier, it was very clear that his demeanor in the process was not becoming of a member of the Supreme Court. So we rushed him through, and we are living with the consequences of rushing him through by not having a full story and a full understanding of what he said on the stand was whether it was true or not.
How much should Kavanaugh and his status on the Supreme Court, the investigation into him, Kavanaugh period, be a campaign issue for the next month?
I think, you know, I've talked to a lot of people, women on both sides, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, who are really galvanized by this. They're upset by the turnout. A lot of what Rhoda said rings true for them. It's going to galvanize both parties. And I think in the end of the day, we need to focus on our districts. For me, it's not about the personal politics. It's about our personal health, our personal safety, our personal financial dignity. I personally, as the son of a single working class mom who raised me on her own through being brokenhearted, I'm appalled by the toxic masculinity that's going on in Washington. A lot of it exists in my district. As you know, Duncan Hunter is somebody who was accused of these allegations, and his big, bold idea was to blame his wife and throw her under the bus. So there is a lot of toxic masculinity that men and women this election need to hold men accountable for.
In looking at California as a whole, there's a big Senate race. Senator Feinstein is running against Kevin De Leon. Who do you support?
You know, I'm sitting out of that race. I'm still trying to figure out what best ideas are out there. But
Why
I think
are you sitting out of it?
Because I still want to hear. I think it's healthy for our democracy to challenge the establishment. That's what I did on both sides. Democrats and Republicans were against me because I was leading with my values. I think Kevin's running a campaign that's challenging the status quo, and I'm still trying to figure out in terms of who has a viable chance. What I will say is that Dianne Feinstein is a fixture, and she has a senior position that's able to give us a voice as Democrats.
What do you think of the job that she did on the Senate Judiciary Committee in the Kavanaugh confirmation process?
I was proud of her. As a Californian, I was proud of the work she did.
What about you, Harley? Would you support Feinstein or Kevin De Leon?
Well, likewise, I'm not picking sides here. I have one mission, and that is to defeat Russia's favorite Congressman, Dana Rohrabacher. Dianne Feinstein has done a fabulous job in her service to our country and did a great job on the Judiciary panel as well. And we need to make sure that we have quality people like Dianne in office. And whether she or Kevin win, I will support them 100%.
I know you guys are both running for the House, but do you think that the Senate Democrats should have done anything differently in the confirmation process for Brett Kavanaugh?
Well, I
Harley, first
think
to
we
you.
should have been fighting back all along on the McConnell rule. The McConnell rule seemed to work for the Republican Party, and they delayed that confirmation process for almost a year. Yet we had to rush this one through as quickly as possible. And I think as Democrats, we should have vocalized more that this process deserves the time to give it the depth and breadth to make sure that Kavanaugh is the right person to go on the bench. And I don't think that's what happened at all.
They tried. They were in the minority. No, I don't mean to interrupt, but they were in the minority. They tried to do that. They tried to slow it down as much as they could. They demanded more documentation, more of his paperwork from an email chains from the time that he was in George W. Bush's White House. They tried to delay it as much as they could.
Well, the key is what you just said. They were in the minority. We cannot have these fights. We are going to continue to feel disempowered as Democrats, as people who are fighting for women, until we win back some seats. That's what the focus is. The next 29 days, we got to focus on flipping the House. That's the biggest focus. What happened a couple days ago happened. Let's move forward the next 29 days, win some seats, and hold the administration accountable.
Here is part of an ad that Duncan Hunter is currently running against
I'm familiar with it. Let's watch it.
Ammar Campa-Najjar is working to infiltrate Congress. He's used 3 different names to hide his family's ties to terrorism. His grandfather masterminded the Munich Olympic massacre. His father said they deserved to die.
Chuck Todd did a thorough fact check on that. I don't think we need to do that all over again.
Right.
But what is your response to that?
Yeah, it's not based in fact at all. I was cleared by the FBI to work at the White House. Duncan Hunter was indicted by the FBI. That's the contrast. One of us is a lawbreaker, and the other one is an aspiring lawmaker.
Why haven't more Democrats come to your defense against that ad? Why haven't more Democrats condemned that ad? Why haven't any Republicans condemned that ad?
A lot of Republicans have condemned that ad in my district, and that's what counts the most. I don't care about what's going on in Washington. I really don't care. They don't seem to have their act together. What we need is a new incoming class of 2019 members of Congress like me and Ruta, who will hold the administration accountable, who will bring back civility and honor and get rid of the chaos in Washington.
Harley, what do you think of this ad?
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of it, and that is consistent with what we're seeing from the Congressional Leadership Fund. I assume is the one probably paying for it. And they have a long history of creating lies and making up stories to run an agenda that clearly is against the will of the American people. So, Ammar, keep fighting back. You've got a great race, and I think you're going to win it.
Well, 3 polls seem to have us statistically tied. And I will say this, I'm not a threat to national security. That ad shows that I'm a threat to Duncan Hunter's seat.
Do you think the polling, I know that there's 3 polls that have you slightly closer than some other polling that's out there. How do you feel about the polling right now? Do you think it's adequately representing the people that are actually going to go out and vote? Or do you believe there's going to be some first-time voters, some not likely voters that will end up swaying this election?
I agree. I think pollsters are having a hard time figuring out what a likely voter is. The only poll that matters, Katie, is on Election Day. And that's why in the next 29 days, again, until I'm blue in the face, we have to get out the vote. We got to make sure to redeem ourselves, get back that country that we loved and lost in 2016 by going out and voting.
Harley, you were a bit ahead of Dana Rohrabacher for quite a while, a couple of months back in July, August, and part of September. That has since tightened. Now you're neck and neck. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, Katie, really depends on the poll. So we've had numerous polls that show I'm either tied or slightly ahead. And those polls have different modeling as to voter turnout. So if you go with a more conservative voter turnout that's similar to a 2014 general election, then you're going to have a tighter race. But if we get the surge vote that we saw in the primary to carry over to the general, then you start to see a little bit more separation. And I'm confident that we will carry the day on November 6th.
Last question to both of you. First off, Nancy Pelosi has fundraised on your behalf, Harley. Would you support her as Speaker of the House?
Yeah, I've said all along I've got one mission here, and that's to defeat Dana Rohrabacher. And if I'm fortunate and sworn in January, I will see who is holding their hand up to be Speaker of the House. I will do appropriate due diligence, and I'll make a decision then.
What's stopping you from saying now that you would support Nancy Pelosi?
Because I don't know who else is running, so I want to see who else is running for Speaker of the House before making a decision.
You said you don't support Nancy Pelosi.
You'll love this question. I've been earning my vote for the past 21 months.
Who would you support?
Whoever can earn my vote, just like I'm trying to earn the votes of the people in my district.
Do you have any thoughts in your head about who that might be?
Let me get elected first, and then you'll have the first exclusive on that question.
Gentlemen, Harley Ruta, Ammar Campa-Najjar, thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. And we do want to note that we did reach out to the Republicans in these races that the Democrats are challenging, and to other Republicans as well, to join us here today. But unfortunately, none of them could be here.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.